It's that time of year where you're feeling it in your bones. You're like, hey, what am I going to do this weekend? Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch 80 basketball games this weekend. It's March Madness. Welcome
Crazy
to Bus
times.
Picks. It's episode 60. My name is Dio. This is Donovan.
How we doing?
It's here. It's my favorite month of October. It's my favorite month of sports. This is my strong second.
Yeah, this is one of the best.
Also, underrated month. I love May because it's like heat of Stanley Cup playoffs, heat of NBA playoffs, and like baseball still got that warm feeling.
Just starting up.
Yeah. Don, how's your day going?
Doing great.
You got a fact for me?
I do. So odd one. It was a weird parallel going through because we're talking brackets. We're talking March Madness. So we know that there's been 11 15 seeds ever to upset a 2 seed.
11s are the hottest.
No. 15 seeds upsetting a 2. It's happened 11 times.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's 2 groups of 3s in that are really weird. Because we had the 3-peat in 2021, 2022, 2023.
Yeah, that was.
We had 15s upsetting 3 years in a row.
It was like Oral Roberts. It was in McNeese State.
Yep.
There was another one, but whatever. Yeah.
And then 3 out of the 11 schools to ever do it are also from Virginia.
What?
Yeah. Norfolk did it, Hampton did it, and Richmond did it. All in the 90s.
Richmond Spiders. Shout out to the Spiders.
Yeah.
That's
first one to do it.
You know what's crazy? Virginia doesn't get like a lot of love in terms of like sports. They're really good at finding hyper athletic like running backs and quarterbacks and hyper athletic guards in the NBA. That Virginia is just like, you want to go find an athlete? Welcome. We got Michael Vick and Amari Stoudemire. Or he's a center, but he was
It's a super athletic Forest center. That dude could run.
And they're just like,
there's the reason he was in
welcome to
D'Antoni's 5 and under offense.
It's bananas. Let's get into the March Madness bracket. Now, last year we went through every single pick. That's a lot. That's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do.
So me and Don took a step back. We're going to hit the points that we think the general public should know about March Madness and going into it, and maybe some ideas, maybe some storylines they can carry on. I'm a big college basketball fan. It's one of my favorite sports. I know you're a March guy. You're like the second it turns March 1st, you're like, all right.
I'll watch every game I
time to start
can.
going.
Yeah, that's when it's the movement for me.
How are you feeling about this bracket right now?
It feels very chalky this year. And that's been the biggest narrative around this tournament.
Doesn't it scare you a little?
It does worry me, but the idea that it feels like nothing lower than a 4, maybe a 5 seed can make the Final Four.
Dude, I've filled out like 7 brackets.
And it just feels weird.
And I'm like, I don't have an 8 seed in the final, like the Elite 8 at all.
No, and the only 5 that I've seen discussed and being a possible even Final Four is Clemson. And that's people who are just super high on Clemson.
Trapezoid theory, that's its own. My favorite thing about college basketball is like there's these ranking lists, and these guys have. It's pretty much college basketball is the sport for data nerds.
Yes.
Like they get these large data maps and they're like pace of play, shots on average, and they create these figures. You know probably way more about
I
it
get
than
into
I do.
it a little bit, but it's hard with March Madness because they're kids.
Yeah,
and
it's so volatile.
It's so volatile. So you could track all these stats, and to me, like
Ken Palm's the big one that everyone
it
uses,
doesn't mean much when the game hits. It doesn't mean that it can't give you hope for teams,
or maybe a map or
an edge.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's a reason it's called March Madness. There's been so many upsets that there's no 100% data selection that has worked, other than the fact that in the 6 of the last 7 tournament winners and 18 of the last 25 have all had plus 900 or lower odds. So plus 900, plus 800, plus 700.
Gotcha.
Winners.
I also know Ken Palm is top 30, where you have a top 30 offense and a top 30 defense. I think it's like 17-2 in the past 20 years.
Yeah, you need to hit the sweet spot of averaging over 81.3, I think, points and giving up lower than 73.
That's crazy.
On the average season. Like that's that sweet spot to find like the winner.
So before we get into like the chalky, like who's our Final Four stuff, I do want to talk about maybe a few things. What are the teams that got into the bracket for you that you're kind of rooting for? Maybe you don't have them in your bracket going super far, but a team that you're like, hey, I would love, and I can see a world where this team kind of makes a small run.
My two big Cinderella ones, because I'm going to call my Cinderella runs just because I think it's very obvious. Nothing gets past the 8.
I think anything.
If you win 1 or 2, you're Cinderella to me.
Yeah, I think if you make it into the Sweet 16, you're 9 and higher than that, you're a Cinderella.
Yes.
In this tournament because the big teams are so great.
Yes,
Yeah.
and for me, like the big one for me this year is Yale. I like their first round matchup against Texas A&M. They were as high as 7th in the AP polls. A&M has battled to get to 40th.
They just shoot like madmen at Texas A&M.
And they do shoot like madmen, but Yale is 38.5, ninth best in the country from 3 this year. And they are also 26th in the country in turning the ball over. They just do not give the ball up. A&M lives by rebounds, and we've seen it this season where moments where they cannot outboard their opponent, the team falls apart.
That's what held them against Florida in the conference tournament this week.
Exactly. So if they're not getting second chance shots, they're not putting up large scores. I like Yale in that situation. My bracket also has Yale playing Michigan in the second round, which I think could be a spicy game.
I like Michigan.
I think Michigan has the edge, but it's one of those I'm like, I could see a 7-point spread and then it being close.
I hear you. Yale's a team that I'm like keeping my eye on where I'm like, I like you a lot. A team that I'm kind of like really rooting for is Gonzaga.
Okay.
I think Gonzaga is a top 10 KenPom offense and a top 30 KenPom defense. They're really, really good. They're Gonzaga. They lost a couple games. They're an 8 seed this year. They got to
Which feels low for them traditionally.
It is. I mean, they're usually a 2-1, as low as a 3 or 4, but an 8 seed it's really low.
Yeah.
They got to play Houston, who I think is historically one of the best college basketball teams we've seen this year and one of the best college basketball programs we've had in the past decade. They're really, really good. They just haven't finished.
Yes.
I think Gonzaga has something in it that can really make a deep run, and I would love to root for them because they're a smaller school. They're going to be in the Pac-12 next year, only in basketball. I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, I think that'll be great.
Another team I got is the Oregon Ducks. The Oregon Ducks got a favorable draw. They got to play in Seattle, so if they win, they get to play again in Seattle. I think they got a great team. They play Arizona in the second round if Arizona wins. They're a dangerous team offensively. They play at a high pace. They love to hit these like trap screens in the corner,
which are dangerous when you're not used to them, especially as amateur players get very flustered. That's where you create those turnovers.
And Arizona and Oregon, they're not in the Pac-12 this year. They played in the Big Ten and the Big 12. They didn't see each other. Not a lot of trap screens running in the Big 12.
No.
I think they're really good. I love what Oregon is doing. Give me Oregon.
No, I like Oregon there. Yeah. The other one I have, I don't think they go too far in this one, but I think Drake has a great shot.
Drake's kind of got like a sneaky fan base around him. Yeah. Where they're like, they play at a super slow pace, but they're very efficient.
Yeah, they play like the Iowa football style, where it's like they win games like 56-40.
They play really good defense.
And they play great defense, and they're playing, their first draw is Missouri. And Missouri is a run and gun offense. Like they like a high tempo, like they're a volume based team. If Drake is able to keep high efficiency, keep things slow, they can just choke out Missouri because of their inefficiency on offense.
Yeah, Missouri's the kind of offense that wants to shoot as many threes as possible, whether they're good or bad looks. You're going to be watching that game, and if Missouri has a way, like what they were doing against Mississippi State in the tournament, where they can just hit those threes, I don't think Drake stands a chance.
Not at all.
But if Drake's defense, which, they can't play
that's what they specialize in this season.
And they can keep the pace at their pace, I think they can win this game like 55 to like 49. It's going to be like a really ugly but like fun game.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of teams, and I chose Drake specifically, is they have such a diametrically opposed game style to almost everyone else in the tournament.
Yeah.
Not a lot of teams want to take up the full shot clock, wait their entire turn, and then take very
team that's like that. Yeah.
But like, they're opposite sides. Yeah, there's not a lot. So I'm like, this might shock a lot of teams
Yeah.
playing against it if they're not used to it.
It's a lot. Another team I think everybody's rooting for is St. John's with Coach P. It's going to be ridiculous.
Do we count a number 2 seed as a Cinderella?
I get that. They're a small school. When was
No,
the
it's
last
a
time
great-
you're like St. John's?
Like as a 2 seed, but they still feel like a dog.
Yeah,
Like compared to these big powerhouse kind of
100%. But like,
typicals.
there's going to be people filling out their brackets that are like, who the hell's St. John's? Yeah, we're going to have them beat Arizona. Arizona beats them, whatever.
They play either Kansas or Arkansas in the second round.
I think they're beating both those teams.
If they beat Omaha.
I think they beat both those teams.
I think
they beat both those teams.
Arkansas has a chance of beating Jayhawks and then just getting ran by St. John's.
Arkansas, new head coach, very good. Get the hog wagon going. Kansas is not as good as people want them to be. They play their whole team through Hunter Dickinson, who's now been playing 7 years of collegiate college basketball. We know who Hunter Dickinson is.
Yeah, there's a lot of tape on the kid.
Like I'm very happy betting against Kansas in this first round.
Yeah, I'm not against it.
Let's get into the bets. Oh wait, let's get into
Disappointments.
who's going to be the disappointed fans, teams that need to make a run to kind of keep their fans' hopes alive.
For me, a big one this year that I think a lot of eyes are on right now is Purdue, sitting I think in the 4 seed. They have such a reputation in the big game, the big dance, as being chokers.
That's
Like,
what they do.
That's what they do.
Up until last year when they played in the championship, they are like, if you beat Purdue, you're like, well, yeah,
It's Purdue. And like they do have these crazy regular seasons, but this year they have played they've lost 6 of their last 11 games.
Yeah.
They really have struggled against any ranked teams. They're 4-6 against any team who's been ranked when they play them. Yet they get a 4 seed.
I hated that draw.
I didn't like that draw. And I think Purdue fans, this is a prove it to the world why you are in that position, because the rest of the fan base, the rest of college basketball fans outside of Purdue, you're overranked. You're overrated. You shouldn't be in this position right now.
I 100% agree with you. I think they have really fun, dynamic guards who are both sophomores. I think outside of that, they don't have the elite Zach Edey force that they had last year.
Yep.
I think they're a very beatable team, and I might actually be having them lose in the first round.
I'm not against it, but I think Purdue fans need to see it get out of the first.
100%.
The fact that there's so much money on them bouncing in the first right now that's going around Vegas.
They're still favorites. I think they're only 8-point favorites, though.
7.5 last time I
7.5?
checked.
Okay.
It's gone down from 10 when the line opened.
Gotcha.
Like they've moved 2.5 points based on just incoming money, early week betting. So that makes me very concerned for Purdue fan base. Like you got to prove something, otherwise you live up to that disappointment.
I'm kind of in the same realm as you. I'm going with Wisconsin for my disappoint team. Wisconsin's kind of got the fan base riled up because they feel like they have a top 5 player in the tournament right now with their guard. They have a really good shooting team. This is unlike any Wisconsin team we've seen in the last few years. Where they're
typically big fundamental, big man in the center.
Yeah, slow and slow play at pace. They kind of flipped the script on this year. They now have lengthy forwards who can drill threes in the corner, and they play pretty tenacious defense. But Wisconsin's a good team. They got, I think, a 4 seed also or 3 seed. They almost won the Big Ten tournament if they didn't have to play 4 straight games. They got a little tired in the tournament.
Yeah, that gasses you out no matter who you are.
The only problem with them is they have to play in Denver. And I think
that's going to exhaust you with the incline difference.
And if BYU wins, BYU essentially gets a home game. I know BYU's in Utah, but it's right there.
Yeah, you're not traveling much.
And they're
it's
used
easier.
to the altitude.
Yeah.
I think Wisconsin needs to minimum make an Elite 8 to make their fans happy. Sweet 16, I think, is the bare minimum for them.
Yeah.
Needs to be the bare
that's
minimum.
the expectation.
That's the expectation.
Yeah.
I think anything, if getting bounced in the second round will disappoint the fans.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Do you have any more disappointing teams?
Those are the big ones to me. I think because of the bracket being so chalky.
Do you want to touch about the big one just in case? The big blue devil that we...
Yeah, if you want to discuss it.
All right. So if Duke somehow loses in the first 2 rounds,
Yeah.
is it the biggest bracket bust in March Madness history?
It is one of the biggest, without a doubt. I think because Duke is... Like I don't have Duke going to the Final Four personally.
What?
Or I don't have them going to the Final Two, I should say.
40.
I have them going to Final Four, but I have them losing.
Gotcha. In the Final Four.
Yeah, into the Final Four. I have them losing in the Final Four.
48% of the brackets have Duke winning on ESPN right now.
And I think like anytime you're that heavy of a favorite, then yes, it's going to be a disappointment no matter what. I think that there's too much buy-in on the team, personally. I think it's just Duke is always one of those teams like Gonzaga, like a Tennessee that is just always consistently a top, like UNC scraping in, but because they have that reputation, because they have that reputation as being that team that's always in March Madness. I think that's what's
fatigue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think it's the opposite of fatigue. Actually,
okay.
I think that there hasn't been any. I think that they're a top seed on a team that traditionally is always there. Mm-hmm. So the money's just easy if you're a casual fan of going, oh, I always see them doing well. Bet on them if they're a high seed.
They are historically good, though.
Yes,
I think
100% they are.
Cooper Flagg getting a little injured wasn't great.
I think a lot depends on his health.
And if he can't play in the first game or even the second game, if he can't play in that second game and they're going to play Louisville or Creighton,
it's going to be rough.
And they lose, I think it's going to destroy the fan base. Also, Cooper Flagg.
Or no, Duke in the second round is either going to play
that's Auburn.
Mississippi State or Baylor.
Okay, I think Mississippi State can win that game.
Yeah, that's a spicy one. And then you're playing Oregon or Arizona right after.
Those are both really good teams.
Unless Liberty or Akron upset, but I don't really buy those upsets.
Like, this is a Cooper Flagg who's the consensus number one pick in the draft. If he feels like, hey, this ankle injury is a little bit more than just something.
Oh, he's going to care. He's going to prioritize his health
100% over his legend at Duke. And I'm sorry, I think it might ruin his status at Duke, but I don't think it can. He's going to win National Player of the Year. Let's get into the bets of the tournament, bets that we're looking forward to going into it in the first round. I like that you said Purdue. I'm actually taking Purdue to not cover -8.5.
Okay.
I'm taking the other team to cover 8.5. High point. So you had them at 7 though.
I've seen the line trending down.
I gotten them at 8. I don't think I'd take them at 7.
7 seems a little. Well, I'm taking them to upset. I'm taking High Point just a straight up upset money line.
I know you like High Point.
I like High Point this year mainly because I just do not trust Purdue. High Point has come in very hot. I think are being like slept on as a lower seed, but that is also my betting strategy for March Madness.
You like to go underdogs.
I am taking nothing but dogs in the first round.
Let's hear them.
So I'm taking High Point over Purdue. That's plus 281 as of a few hours ago. I'm taking VCU to beat BYU. I just don't.
I have VCU also.
Okay,
on my card.
I just don't trust
VCU money line.
I just don't trust BYU's interior D right now. My biggest swing for the fences right now is Grand Canyon over Maryland.
I don't like that one at all.
I think it's a fun one just because.
I said that, and they're probably going to win now.
We'll see.
You're welcome.
But Maryland has been had a little bit of banged up at the end of the season. Grand Canyon has been playing great. They're just playing schools that just no one watches their games. It's an online university. They're just they're slept on.
I don't subscribe to that anymore. If they got to the tournament, they're a good enough team to be in the tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just don't think they've had the national media coverage because they're in a smaller conference and they're an online school.
They're very good.
Those kinds of uncertainty to me make things a little bit more interesting. The last three is, like I said, Yale over A&M, Drake over Missouri.
Love it.
And I don't think this is a huge upset, but Creighton over Louisville. It's going to be Cardinals versus Blue Jays, and I like Creighton. They're traditionally a Sweet 16 kind of team.
I don't disagree with you on that. I like Creighton. I like the way that they're coached. I like the way they play ball. Yep. I also love Louisville. It's their first time back in the tournament since, I think, for 6 years.
Yes.
And I know they want to make a big impression, but they're kind of in a bad spot where the ACC wasn't that great this year. I like Creighton. The Big East was like the best division it's been in a long time.
And they've had to play some hard schools to get in because of the East being raised.
I really, really like what Creighton's going to do. I do think Creighton's going to win money line.
Yeah. It is technically an upset, though. I think it is plus 117. So not too much, but it's still plus that plus money.
That's fine. I got Michigan to cover -2.5 in their first game, along with Vandy to upset money line. But I'm also going to take them with the points plus 3.5.
Yeah.
And then I'm giving you one under. I love this under. It's New Mexico versus Marquette. Now,
New Mexico looked cooked at the end. They just looked gassed. They
played 4 games in a row.
Yes.
They were tired. New Mexico also plays at the second slowest pace in this tournament outside of Drake. They're going to play slow. And Marquette, they do play fast. But my thing about Marquette is they have one player that they channel their entire offense through.
Yeah. If it's a box on one situation or the New Mexico is able to adjust to just limit points, I like the under there.
That's what I'm saying. The under is 153.5. That's a high over under, period.
That is for a slow pace of play team who focuses defense to target one guy. Yeah.
I genuinely would have taken it at 142.5. That's where I would have taken it.
Wow, that's low.
So
yeah, that's a big difference.
I love this bet. I almost made it my pick of the week.
Would you make it alternates? Would you do an alternate line down to get plus money?
Oh, 100%. I'm going to take it. I'm probably going to take it to like 149.5 just to buy myself a couple points.
There you go.
Yeah, I really don't think this team's going to score. And then lastly, I have Omaha covering 18.5 points. Do I think they're going to win? No shot in hell. But 18.5?
That's a
against
huge
Michigan
ask.
State. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into our Final Four. You kind of spoiled your Final Four a little bit. So let me get all your teams.
For me, I have Florida playing Michigan State. And then Duke playing Tennessee. It is pretty chalky. I have Tennessee moving on.
That's not too chalky. You put two seeds in there.
Yeah. Well, there's only one time that ever has there been 4 1 seeds in the Final Four.
I don't think there's going to be 4 1 seeds.
I don't think there's going to be 4 1 seeds. I just don't think many teams can compete with the 1 and 2 seeds overall.
I think there's 3 historic number 1 teams. That's why.
Yes.
And it's the Florida, it's Duke, it's Auburn. Houston's good, but like Houston hasn't done it in the playoff or in the tournament. I think they rewrite history. I think Alabama wins. I think they beat Duke. I think Alabama and Houston in the Final Four to face off against each other, and then Florida and Auburn, the 2 other 1 seeds, coming together, play against each other. So I have 3 1 seeds, 1 2 seed. You're way more spicy than I am, technically.
My issue why I took Tennessee there is Alabama has had a lot of injuries at the end of the season.
Yeah,
guys are just getting healthy again.
Yeah.
I don't know if they shake off the rust in a big tournament or if they even the entire team returns. Looking at projections right now based on where they sit, there's too much uncertainty for me.
My thing about Alabama is I've watched a lot of Alabama basketball.
Yeah.
And there's been times where they're down by 20 and I'm like, well, this team's done. I've never seen a team that just will light it up like that.
Oh, they claw back so quickly.
Not even claw. They chuck and shoot threes at a pace that they try to shoot 3 threes a minute. The other team gets 30 seconds of shot clock.
Yeah.
They try to shoot 3 threes a minute. That's how crazy they are. And they have Marcus Spears, who's probably the best 3-point shooter in this tournament.
Sure. No, he is. He's been very consistent.
Florida's amazing. What they've been able to do to finish the season. And Auburn, up until the last bit of the season where they lost 3 of their last 4, they looked unstoppable.
Yeah.
I'm really
that fall off does make me concerned.
So Don, at the end of the day, I know this is before the first game is even played. Who do you have winning this tournament?
I have Florida. They're the team that's coming in healthy, finishing strong. They have the Ken Palm metrics that just make me go like, there's not a lot of teams that finish strong, fully healthy guy, like full team coming out, plus all the underlying metrics.
I love Florida too.
I think I'm overlooking something. Then that's the point of March Madness is there's going to be like this one specific stat someone's going to pull out at the end and go, I told you it was going to be like BYU winning the entire thing because when the sun is like looking at this side of like when it's giving off this angle of light and the moon is shining at this fullness.
Every time there's a blood moon on Jupiter, they forget to shoot their 3-pointers in the corner.
It's just going to be something ridiculous. And I'm just going to go with where the gut says first.
That's awesome. I'm taking Houston to win it all. I know I've been like, Houston's kind of shown me they don't do it. I really do think this is a top program.
Yeah.
I do think they have a top 10 coach in all of college basketball. I think this is a year where there's so many big teams. I go back to my roots and I'm like, what are the divisions that impress me the most when you handle it? Auburn did great in the SEC, and so did Florida.
Yeah.
They're two of the best teams in the SEC, which is why they're both 1 seeds. Big 12 basketball is important to me. I think Big 12 basketball is a great metric to see where they're at. Houston lost 1 game since November in overtime and has not lost a game since. They steamrolled through the Big 12 tournament. Do they score as many points as Florida and Alabama and Duke? No, they don't.
No, but they're also more defensive focused than the other schools too.
And they run plays at an efficiency. They're a program. They're like a true, like, if you like old school basketball and you just want to watch these boys run the plays that were designed by the really good coach, that's where you're going to watch Houston.
No, that makes sense. Like, there's a few schools that have that kind of old school fundamental, we're just going to beat you down, like the Tim Duncan method.
Yeah.
And like they're them, and I think Wisconsin, traditionally Wisconsin, kind of are the 2 shining stars for it. So I could see it.
How long until Thursday do you think brackets get busted? Do you think within the first
3 games?
5? Oh, you said 3.
I said I don't even know who the first 3 polls are. Like,
I know who plays the
tip-off?
first 3, but like I say by like 2:00, there's already someone on like Instagram and Twitter and, on YouTube and Reddit being like, can you believe Michigan State lost? Or like,
let's see, the first 3 that are going to go.
I think it's Louisville Creighton kicks it off, right?
Men's basketball. Louisville Creighton.
Yeah, Wisconsin gets like right after that. Like,
And then, Purdue's the next game. It's
Okay,
Louisville
so
Creighton, Purdue High Point.
you know what, Dom?
So I'm that, and then
You might be swaying me on the Purdue because you said 3 games. You've been really high on.
and that was just I forgot about Purdue. I didn't know that Purdue
you
has
might
a
have-
second game.
And you said first 3 games. We've talked about those 3 games.
Another interesting
relentlessly.
one, Game 6. A lot of money has been on McNeese State to upset Clemson.
I like Clemson.
I'm not against Clemson. I would love to see the chaos.
McNeese State's also like one of the best schools in like their division.
Oh yeah,
They're
And,
really, really good.
And
at
this
basketball.
is one of the that's why I'm high on Yale. Is like Ivy League basketball has been a very established. Like these smaller divisions do perform very well at basketball
Princeton
traditionally.
made it to the Sweet 16.
Cornell used to run very, very well
Yeah.
for quite a few years too.
Yale,
So it's not unheard of.
I do think Yale can make some noise.
No, that's why I'm favoring like the VCUs, the McNeese, the High Points, because it's just like it adds a little bit of spice.
Let's get into our. Let's do bust of the week. Let's go into bust of the week.
Bust of the week.
Because my bust of the week goes directly into college basketball, and I want to talk to the committee. And I'm sure if anyone has paid attention to what this selection Sunday was this weekend, you found out that the chairman of the board that does the selection Sundays decided to put in his alma mater, the team he actually is the athletic director for North Carolina. He put them into the tournament when every single bracketologist had them out of the tournament and had West Virginia in. And West Virginia feels so slighted that their governor actually stepped out and is now actively pursuing a court case against the NCAA, who historically loses court cases.
They don't win anything.
Because the second you put the microscope over the NCAA, you're like, oh, this is highly illegal and immoral, and we probably shouldn't be letting them get away with this stuff.
Traditionally, that's why they try to hold everything hush in-house. Like look at what happened with like Larry Tunsil.
Yeah.
Like they try to hold everything close to the vest
And
inside.
everything.
Exactly.
Anytime the NCAA gets sued, they're like, yeah, we were wrong. And they still make a bunch of money, so what does it matter? Anyway, go back to the bust. It's criminal that someone has the ability to do that. You've talked about it so much about the college football committee where you're like, it should be elected people who have no ties to these schools currently.
Exactly. It should be like you should have nothing but Division II representatives deciding Division I and Division I representatives deciding Division II.
I think you even took a different step from that. I think you even said it should be based on actual standings and divisional winnings.
That would be even better.
Yeah.
But if you're with something biased like March Madness, where divisional standings don't mean as much because every division matters.
Correct. Yeah.
Like you're going to have those kind of bubble teams. So you do need an unbiased committee to fill in the bottom of the brackets.
Even the top. I mean, even the tops of it, man. Like people are getting mad about Louisville selection or like Auburn, who has the number one seed. People were like, they got to play a gauntlet, and I don't disagree. Auburn's got to like win a bunch of games of like really good teams, but that's the tournament.
That's sometimes that's it. Once you're in, that's the hand you draw. I think the selecting the teams to show up is where the most kind of tomfoolery can happen.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Don, who's your bust of the week?
Mine, well, we're going to get into it a little bit more later on, but mine is Ferrari. We just had the Australian Grand Prix over the weekend, first race of the season, and we'll get into the specific.
Let's just do the Australian Grand Prix.
Okay, we'll talk about Australian Grand Prix. And then we'll Ferrari. There's two. One of them was the all-time soundbite from Charles Leclerc.
I heard it.
You finally heard it?
Yeah, I heard it literally like 45 minutes ago.
That is the best soundbite I've ever heard. Where there's something leaking in my seat. What do you think it is? Water. Then it must be the water. Like brilliant engineering work there, my friends. So like the F1 memes have been amazing about that. But also the idea that they were battling weather the entire race. That was a big issue for everybody.
Slipping and sliding everywhere.
Was only like four out of the 6 rookies in the field crashed.
Yeah, I know. It was a big plot point in the entire race where like guys were crashing up until like the kind of like what was happening with the first NASCAR, the Daytona thing, where it was like crashes and like taxi cars at the end of the race really kind of affected how this race ended.
No, it really did. And Ferrari had an advantage because everyone was going in for through pit lane. Caution comes out. Ferrari has the 1-2 spot. Like they are sitting first and second, but they are on hard tires, not the rain tires that everyone was using. And they were taking the gamble because rain was supposed to disappear in a lap or two. That if they could just hold the lead for that lap or two, everyone else would have to go back in, take off their rain tires. Ferrari would already be on the correct set, and they could try to pull away. So they go through one lap under safety car with that setup, and then after completing that lap, go, nah, never mind. We're going to go in and change our tires anyway. They go from first and second to 10th or to 11th and 12th.
And they ended up finishing what, 7th and 8th? Or?
Yes, I think 10th and 7th.
Yeah,
and so it just bombed their race completely because they couldn't. Like worst case scenario, you drop back a few spots on the restart.
Yeah,
but you're still in a situation if you just trusted your gut to at least have a chance at winning. I will take a gamble where you have a chance at winning over overthinking your decision and then copping out when it's already too late. Like either make the decision to pit or make the decision to stay out. Don't play both.
Yeah, I think that's what affected the race.
That's what affected their race the most.
McLaren had a hell of a day. And
dominant, other than Piastri wrecking, other than which I was so upset with Piastri wreck because he's Australian. That was his home race.
You wanted him to win?
I wanted him to do well. They were running first and second for almost that entire thing.
Out of Verstappen ticket, so I was pretty pissed.
No, he's finished second. That wasn't too bad. But you could just tell the McLaren is just
they're firing at all cylinders right now.
What they were specifying, and even Verstappen came out and said it after the race. McLaren has the most balanced car out of the field, so they will always be in the top. Like certain teams may beat them on specific tracks based on setup, but just on a day in, day out, they have the best balance to any car. The only other one that wasn't nearly as fast, but as well balanced was Mercedes with George Russell. You had Tony Antonelli. I'm forgetting his name. The rookie who's riding with George Russell, finishing technically fourth, but with a penalty, ended up going to fifth. Great rookie showing. I think this was one of the best. If you're trying to get into F1, go rewatch this race. It was one of the most dynamic.
I wanted to talk about F1 because it's charting across the media.
Yeah,
F1 has exploded. I don't know if it's
the Netflix documentary brought in a lot of casual or non-racing fans.
I think social media in general. I think I think in an era where NASCAR isn't exactly gripping the casual fan anymore.
Actively losing real fans, not even just the casual fans. Like they are having a lot of lapsed fans at the moment.
and people are into cars. There's always new audiences getting into new demographics. I think the car market is massive, and I think F1 is kind of the best of the best. I think it's as good as racing can get.
They are the best. They are the best racers in the world for a reason.
Yeah, and I think it's clearly growing. I can't avoid it. I've never seen F1 on my timeline, on my pages, and anything. And I'm being bombarded with it. And I genuinely enjoy the highlights and the characters that I'm learning about and like these new storylines. I'm getting into so many new sports over the past 2 years that like I didn't think F1 was going to be the next one that I was like, oh, this has my interest.
It's also fun when you have like the absurdity of what the sport is. Yeah. Like NASCAR, it is millions of dollars to drive a car. IndyCar, which is becoming the growing popularity again because of its similarity of body design to F1.
Yeah.
It's kind of drawing that. And they've marketed it correctly, in my opinion, putting free races up on YouTube the next day, putting up highlights immediately. Like they're catering to the modern fan.
Every sports league should be doing that to gain interest in fans.
Exactly. Yeah. Like make your sport more accessible. F1 has been doing that for a while, but it's also the idea is that you have these individual drivers who can kind of speak their mind for the most part. They are trying to crack down on radio communications a little bit because a lot of them curse a lot and they're trying to make it family friendly. But they are representing billions of dollars. And it's like an absurd amount of money involved. And so the idea of just watching this guy come out and just casually go, yeah, this like I think this car sucks. It means like this is just a bad race.
His and boss you know is like that a multi-billionaire.
Exactly. Like the absurd like how diopose it is. And you get to know them better. Like the F1 jumped in on the Drive to Survive on Netflix. And I think that was a great move by them. It adds a lot of personality to athletes. It's the same thing when Hard Knocks first came out. And you saw a huge spike in the NFL because you got to latch onto these people, not just as athletes, but as people.
I can't. I have a moment in my heart right now for Hard Knocks because no one wants to be the Hard Knocks team. And it's sounding like Hard Knocks is going to die.
I mean, there is the associated curse there.
I just love it. I just love to like feel like I'm in the facilities. They had one last year for the offseason and they followed the Giants GM, and that's where we got all those amazing quotes of like, oh, if you let go Saquon, I'm going to be sick. If you let him get to the Eagles. Or like when his son's like, I don't know, if I were you, I'd get Jaden Daniels. And his like 9-year-old son knew to go get Jaden Daniels instead of running it back with Daniel Jones, who is going to be a good quarterback next year.
You got to sell yourself on that one. I will say with Hard Knocks, just before, because we're going to get into the NFL stuff right now. We're going to get into our favorite offseason, our top 3 offseason movers, our bottom 3 offseason movers.
Yeah.
A guy that I have just in the questionable category, and I think it ties into Hard Knocks really well, is Aaron Rodgers, who has still yet to sign with the team.
Let's talk about what's happening right now.
Well, there's two big teams that are going after him. Like rumored, allegedly.
3.
Well, the big one is he was spotted in Minneapolis Airport,
which is the number 1 right now.
There's a lot of connections that he might go to the Steelers, who did just meet with Jaden Milroe as well, who had dinner with them.
Yeah.
The rookie. So it's 50-50 there. If he goes to the Steelers, I think Hard Knocks has to be the Steelers. Just because you are guaranteed drama.
I think you're guaranteed eyes.
Exactly.
I think if I want Aaron Rodgers to be in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform next year. Not as much as I want him to be a Viking. I just want him to go full Brett Favre. I want him to play 1 year. I want him and JJ to just light it up for a season.
Be interesting.
That's fine. Steelers would be fine. I think they'd be. I don't think he helps them win any more games than they do.
No, but I just want to see the idea of like DK getting mad on the sideline, George Pickens trying to fight somebody, and Rodgers just going, I have enough of these kids. I'm going to go do ayahuasca in the corner. Like, I just want to see that dichotomy together.
I don't see a world where like Aaron Rodgers is like, I'm going to a battle line.
Oh no, it's because he can't move anymore.
Yeah, but he's also so old and doesn't have exactly the best street cred right now, where he kind of just can take whatever he's given. So who knows?
Yeah.
let's get into our winners and losers of the NBA offseason or NFL offseason so far.
Yeah.
We have 3 winners, 3 losers. We're going to start with the winners. I got 3 teams that when I was looking at like what offseason moves, and I was trying to be as objective as possible. And I got to a point where I got to this team, my first team, and that's New England Patriots.
I have them as my 3rd best that I have.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to touch on them. Let's talk about them.
Adding 4 key defensive starters is massive for this team. Harold Landry, Carlton Davis, Milton Williams, Robert Spillane. Like, this was a needed addition. They also got some backup guys. With a Mike Vrabel taking over for his first season, you know he's going to build a defense first. Like, that is what they're built for.
Built through the trenches.
They built through the trenches. They also went and got Mac Hollins to add some receiver depth, which they really need.
Who's a good locker room guy, too.
Great locker room guy, and you saw he does have maybe not the best route running and speed, but consistent hands.
Yeah.
He will be a safety blanket for Drake May. They are just like I would argue an offensive tackle and like a deep receiver away from like, okay, this team could be spicy, especially if the defense performs like I think it will.
I think, offensive line, I think it needs a little bit more help. This is a good secondary. This can be a really good defense next year. I think we're going to get a classic Patriots defense next year. I'm not going to say anything crazy, but there's a world where I might have the New England Patriots making the playoffs next year.
I think second in division is the most realistic thing for this team right now.
Yeah, like I think they can be. I like Drake May, and I like a lot of players on this team. I just hate the Patriots, and I think they deserve to suck for at least 10 years. At least 10 years.
I mean, they might have fixed the rebuild quicker.
What's your other team?
My other big one that I think that is just going to be a little more controversial between us personally is the Seattle Seahawks.
I disagree. I like them.
Oh, okay. Because they've shedded almost everybody off this team. And I think that was the best move for them in this time. They did add Cooper Kupp, which is going to bring a lot of experience and depth to a receiver room full of very young players.
JSN's going in his 3rd year.
You have Bobo as the number 3, who's in his fourth year. So, but they're still younger guys that never really got to shine as the number 1. Like, you had DK there, you had Lockett there for so long. I think having a guy to mentor a lot of the younger players would be a good idea, and you got him for relatively cheap compared to where you were expected to pay DK.
Do you feel like the Sam Darnold, Geno Smith move kind of feels lateral?
It feels very lateral, especially because you got rid of a few guys.
Do you just like that they're
It feels like they're committing to a rebuild, and I like that. Like McDonald knows that he needs to rebuild this team.
Does it feel like they're committing to a rebuild? Because they did just sign Sam to a lot of money, and they went and got an aging Cooper Kupp. I like what they're doing because it doesn't feel like they're rebuilding. It feels like they're retooling to no longer be the Pete Carroll Seahawks and being more of this new version of the Seahawks, the McDonald Seahawks.
No, it does. It does feel like that, but they're also freeing up a lot of cap space that they did not have previously, and they're chasing free agents. That's my big thing. Moves. They're making a lot of moves, but the way that they're going about it is they're getting rid of large bloated contracts that are going to be on the books forever. Short-term deals where they can pivot and rebuild while they maintain some level of consistency.
They're very flexible.
They're in a very flexible position, and that's a rebuilding position for me. Like, you have JSN who's 3rd, 4th year.
Kind of like
you need to go win right now, like the Vikings did.
Where they're like
retool some guys, maintain flexibility, plug and play until you figure out what works best.
I like that. Another team I want to talk about is the Commanders.
Love it. That's my 3rd.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
So we can talk about them together then.
Sure.
What the Commanders did, I know a lot of people are like, they got Fat Debo. We talked about it last time.
Fine. It's so much better than Olamide Zacharidis that they just let walk.
Yeah. They went and they said, all right, let's go get Lemmy Tunsil.
Yeah.
They said,
great addition for this team.
What they've been able to put around Jaden Daniels and what this organization is doing, they've always spent money on free agents. It's not really a big deal for me. It's more of, it feels like there's a consistent tone where they're just like, we're not going to go get the biggest, brightest name on the board because it's a free agent. They're more of like, this is the consistent tone of what we want our team to look like.
Yeah.
And there's only a few teams that I ever see do that. A team like the Baltimore Ravens, I can always consistently look at them and be like, I know exactly what type of players they're going to draft.
Yep.
And scout and bring in from free agency.
It's pretty typical.
Yeah.
Year in, year out.
There's nothing like too shocking that I'm like, okay, yeah, that I don't see where he fits. It means that they're taking a step into being competent, and
Yes.
I'm really happy for them.
And that is a great move, though, because like they also got Javon Kinlaw, Eddie Goldman, Will Harris, which I think shores up their defense. Like, yes, they got Tunsil and Debo on the offense, which are the big sexy pieces.
Yeah.
But they loaded this defense in free agency, and that is what they needed to address the most. You've upgraded your pass rush, you've upgraded your secondary.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels showed he could ball out with whoever. Give him one extra weapon, let him and Terry go, give him the protection for a young kid who, when he takes a hit, he looks pretty scary at moments. And so you get him Tunsil to shore that up, but you focus majority on the defense. You have a window right now. You were runner up in the NFC Championship. I
would like another.
You're on a rookie deal with Daniel. You have a window. They're taking advantage.
I would like a dynamic running back on this team. I think adding. I don't mean to be mean to Brian Robinson. I just don't think he's that guy.
I like B-Rob. He would be a great number 2 on, like, if you get a speed back and then have him just go pound the rock right after, would be a great 1-2 combo.
I mean, Eckler was what they were hoping for that, but
not in his 30s.
Yeah, I'm off that.
Yeah.
Let's get into some losers. I think there were some big losers. I think there's one that we were talking about in the kitchen that I don't agree with you on. So I guess we'll start there. You have the Bengals as one of your losers.
I do.
After re-signing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
Yes. It makes no sense for me for them on why they decided to do this decision for long-term deals for these two guys. Mm-hmm. You have made playoffs 2 out of the last 5 years.
That's not bad for the Bengals.
It's not bad for the Bengals, but their 2 biggest issues.
And a Super Bowl. They've made a Super Bowl. They have made a Super Bowl.
They have made a Super Bowl.
That's impressive.
That is impressive.
That is more than the Baltimore Ravens.
But their 2 biggest issues that have been the Bengals' like Achilles heel is their O-line work, as Joe Burrow gets nailed all the time and has a very severe injury record now.
Just very severe.
I think it's worrying. Yes, he is.
Very severe is he gets hurt every game.
He gets hurt every year. He misses a game, at least 1 to 2 games per season, and has missed entire seasons now in his career.
Very severe is like Tua Tagovailoa. He is not Tua Tagovailoa.
He's not Tua, but he is, I would argue, the 2nd or 3rd most injured quarterback in the league right now.
No, he's not even close to Anthony Richardson. He's not even close. He's not.
Starting quarterback. My apologies. Asterisk, starting quarterback.
He's the starting quarterback. He started our games last year, and he might start this year.
He might.
But
you know the O-line is terrible.
Yeah.
And you did not, especially with Myles Garrett getting a big deal right now. The Steelers retooling their defense a little bit, and you did nothing to fix that. And you lost shootouts where you put up 40 points, and your defense gave up more because anything would walk through. And you prioritized adding a receiver over keeping your best defensive player who led the league in sacks last year, Trey Hendrickson.
A few weeks ago when we were talking about T. Higgins, you were actively saying like they might lose both of these guys.
They might. It felt like they were going to if they made the competent decision of addressing where the biggest issues on their team. Josh Allen just won an MVP with a combined wide receiver room cap hit of $18 million.
Yeah.
Just T. Higgins and Joe Burrow alone are sitting at...
I think all 3 of them equate for 41% of the entire
Exactly.
roster.
They sit at $69 million combined cap hit. Just T. Higgins and Jamar Chase alone. You are telling the world to me when you went and signed both of these guys, after you franchise tagged T. Higgins, and instead of dealing him if he threatened to sit out, which was rumored, or just sticking with it for 1 season, you're telling the league, we don't think you're either not going to go compete for wins.
Yeah.
You're just going to try to sell tickets. Or you don't think Joe Burrow can perform well without elite talent around him, similar to what Josh Allen was able to do. Those are the 2 things you're telling me.
I can see what you're saying there.
If you have 22% of your, or not even 22, 27% of your entire cap for the season,
40% of the entire team
wrapped up in 3 players, 22% wrapped up in just 2 receivers.
Yeah.
you don't care about rebuilding this team.
Here's my part where I disagree with you. I don't think they're
Sure.
anywhere close to one of the most disappointing off seasons when we've seen dramatic, historic bad off seasons this year.
We've seen some bad ones. I think it's, to me, where the drop off is where the expectations lie. This was
I
a
think
team
you
that
are
had,
the only person that has these expectations.
this was
for
a
the
team
Bengals.
that coming into last season was projected to win the division.
No, they were not.
They had
They were last in the division before that. They'd come off last place in the division.
Yeah.
After the Ravens had the number 1 seed, there was no one that was saying, besides me, and I got chastised for it, that was saying the Bengals were going to win the division like that.
they had strong divisional odds. I'll look it up right now while we're talking. But it's their other two moves that worry me as well. They only brought in 2 other new players.
Yeah.
They brought in
They can only bring
TJ
so much.
Stanton from Green Bay.
Yeah.
Where he only started 2 out of the last 4 seasons. Like, very suspect.
Yeah.
And Oren Burke, who has had 17 starts in the last 7 seasons, and you let your guard Alec Kappa walk.
Yeah, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
they've made good moves. I think they've made middling moves. And in fact,
I think they've made this roster to me feels in a worse place coming into this season than where they were coming into last season.
all I can judge them on is what they've done so far.
Yeah.
Here's what I think they're going to do in the draft room and why they care so much is they clearly are like, all right, well, we know our holes. Let's just go fill those holes.
Bengals were second odds to win the division.
Not favorites to win the division.
No, Ravens were minus 115.
Okay, that's
Bengals were plus 200.
okay. So that's a pretty like big jump in odds.
They opened at 110 to 180.
Yeah,
Plus 110 to plus 180.
Yeah.
That's where they opened up at.
plus odds.
Plus odds. Well,
So not the
both
favorite.
Ravens and Bengals were plus odds.
Yeah,
Like, so 70-point differential there. Or 70 odds, plus 70.
not the favorite.
That is when the next guy's at plus 600, you're the 2 favorites to win the division.
They were not the favorite to win the division. There was very few people that were saying the Bengals are going to win the division.
Bengals were
They had aspirations.
They had aspirations. Okay, we'll
For sure.
Okay, we can say that. I'm saying they had aspirations.
Yeah.
They've continued to verbally say they had aspirations, and they're not improving the team whatsoever.
Here
They're
all right.
actually actively detrimental to the team. That's my issue. If you keep
So your argument is the best wide receiver tandem
Yes.
in the NFL are detrimental to the Bengals.
Yes.
That's the statement.
That is the statement I am making because their cap is now affecting the rest of the team where they cannot build the team. And
Now-
that is the front office issue. That is not a Jamar Chase issue. That is not a T. Higgins issue. Go get your bag while you can. That is a front office not caring about building a winning roster.
What if their plan is, hey, we believe that we can scout and we see the players on the defensive side of the ball throughout this draft that we can select that can help us on that side of the ball.
If they can draft amazing, then I will turn my opinion around on this. But they
Okay.
historically have not been able to do that.
I don't think what's the line of wins for them for you where you're like that was a good season.
10.
Okay. So
That
if
is-
they win 10 seasons, you will say that was a good
If
season.
they could get the 10 wins this season, I think it's just I will revert because I think right now they are lucky to get 7.
Okay,
If they could
that's a
get
big
10,
jump. 3 wins is a lot in the NFL.
3 wins is a lot, but 10 is to get playoffs in the AFC.
So you think they need to make playoffs this year in order for them to be a success?
Otherwise, why did you just pay two of your top guys that much money? If
So-
you're not making playoffs, why is Jamar Chase getting that contract?
Because they're very good players
They are very good players.
and they deserve that money.
They do deserve that money.
That's
I
why
think
they did it.
I think, but only one of them. If you're going to build a winning roster, you do not sign both those guys.
We'll see how it works out.
Will do.
I have another team I want to talk about. It's another team in your division. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have been the defender of the Pittsburgh Steelers on this roster.
Yeah.
Or on this show. I don't think there's anyone in America that knows the Pittsburgh Steelers better than I do. I really don't. I know the Pittsburgh Steelers better than any other person in the world. I know exactly what they're going to do this year. Without their quarterback on their roster, I guarantee them not 8-9.
You don't
or
think
9-8.
Mason Rudolph's starting?
He could, and they'll still go 9-8 because they've done it before.
Yeah, that's just what they do year in, year out.
I think their expectations are much like the Bengals, or are different from the Bengals. Where like, to me, the Bengals going 9-8, like that's what they should do. The Steelers go 9-8. Their expectations are we should win the Super Bowl every year, and they haven't realized yet that they're way more of like the Indianapolis Colts than like they ever want to admit.
Yeah,
I don't think what they've done this offseason is productive. Sure, the DK move is flashy, but as you've said, two receivers don't make it, and when your two receivers are the hotheads of the entire league,
it's a worry.
It's a worry,
especially when one of them was nearly kicked off the Steelers last year for personal issues.
I think this also opens them up to like possibly trading George Pickens, maybe, and like
that's I think the best move for the Steelers right now is to do that. Like you have your number one still, you can get some good picks for Pickens right now.
Also, like you don't have to pay George Pickens; you're going to have to pay him next year.
Yeah. So get him off the team while you can still get a return for him.
Them losing Najee Harris, it just
doesn't matter to me.
I think it matters a little bit. I think they're not. I don't think they're constructing a roster that even shows that they're even trying. I think they need to either blow it all up and decide we're not going to run it with Mike Tomlin, or put all their assets and chips on the table and saying, we want to go get this guy. We want to go make a move and say, hey, Arizona, what do you want for Kyler Murray? Call up Atlanta and be like, hey, we think we can win with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I want to see them do that instead of just being like, Aaron Rodgers, please come to our team. Hell, I would even liked it if they just signed Russell Wilson off the rip first day, because then I would have been like, there's direction
committing.
here.
Yeah, they're committing to something.
They clearly have an idea of what they're doing. Right now, it just feels like they're like, well, we'll figure it out. It's my least confident Steelers team I've gone into, and I know I said a few minutes ago they're probably going to go 9-8. This is the first time before the draft I'm sitting here and I'm going, oh wait, this might be the first bad season of the Steelers.
If they get Milroe, where does your opinion change? If they go draft Milroe and he's assumed to be starter week 1,
I'm a Jordan Milroe guy.
Yeah,
I think he's good. In 2 years, I think you have to sit him down and develop him.
Yes.
So no, I think he's not good. I think if they don't walk away with one of those two starting quarterbacks, they're dead. I think Aaron Rodgers, I can sell myself on Aaron Rodgers a little bit, but like
there has been rumors, not the Steelers specifically, no name teams, but that Atlanta has been called a lot for Kirk.
Yeah.
Current trade value is estimated to be a 3rd round pick.
I'm not giving up a 3rd round pick for Kirk Cousins. Not at this point. And I don't think the Steelers would either. I think they're just like, we'll eat it. I think maybe you call Miami and you're like, we'll take that contract off your hands and let's run it with Tua. Because
that's not a good decision in this division.
But if Miami starts going down a bad track next year and they're like, well, we're going to fire a head coach because they already got him on the hot seat. This is clearly a Tyreek Hill's going to be 32. We got to offload some contracts, start rebuilding.
Yeah, then in that case, go for it.
Other than, I don't see a world where they can draft a quarterback this year. I don't see a world where they have a losing record and Mike Tomlin survives.
No, he's only around because of the winning record consistency.
Correct. And even then, like, fans are really upset, which that's
because you're stuck in mediocrity. Like, how many bounces in
it's not mediocrity.
It is.
It's not, because they always have hope. Getting into the playoffs is hope.
Getting to the playoffs is hope, but how many years in a row have they lost a wild card?
Many.
Like they haven't had, I think it's in the last like 8 years, they have yet to win a playoff game. They've made the playoffs consistently and consistently lose. I would rather be no hope for 3 years while a team rebuilds. You haven't been
bad in a long time. You don't even remember what it's like to be bad. You don't even know what it's like to be average. You haven't picked in the top 15 in a long time.
It's been a while. I'll say that, but I would, if we didn't re-sign him, I'm like, rebuild the team. You need to go round up. I will accept a few
years ago now.
Yeah, but I would always accept a rebuild over losing the wild card consistently over and over and over again.
My other loser is the Dallas Cowboys.
Lockstep. That's my number 2. Yes.
Okay, so let's get into the Dallas Cowboys. They did nothing. Oh, my bad. They signed that long snapper.
Oh, they signed Miles Sanders.
Oh, dude, Miles Sanders
and Javonte Williams. while cutting their 1,000-yard rusher Rico Dowdle.
I'm legally not allowed to say anything bad about Javonte Williams.
Like they lose Zeke, which good. Like that is a net positive for the team there.
They technically lost him before the playoffs started, so that way he can go on a roster and maybe win a Super Bowl.
That no one
picked him up.
No one picked him up. Yeah. I think he was on our practice squad for like 2 weeks for the Ravens.
A second, yeah.
But yeah, like you get rid of your 1,000-yard rusher and Rico Dowdle. You bring in Miles Sanders, who looked rough last year and had some knee issues. You bring in Javonte Williams, who looked bad last year.
Yeah.
You don't.
He didn't look terrible.
He looked rough.
He's coming off the injury.
He was coming off an injury still. You add Solomon Thomas at 30 years old.
Stanford.
Jack Saborn from the Bears, I think, is interesting.
Saborn.
And then you get Paris Campbell.
Paris Campbell's bad.
He's their number 2 now.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough. They did nothing to really improve. And a weird thing, I was digging into the Dallas and like trying to figure out what's going on here. Considering like Jerry Jones is always like, oh, we're all in. Or he does one of two things. He says they're all in, like they did last season, or he says he doesn't want to pay guys until they prove their contract and wants to keep it in house.
Yet him and his Micah Parsons conversations have not been leading to a good spot.
Well, I mean, if you pay the guys early, you don't get the bloated contract to Dak.
Yeah.
You don't get the bloated contract to CD. Myles Garrett was just paid $40 million a year.
CD.
Micah Parsons is going to want to match that.
Yeah.
And without paying him early, this is what you get: is you are now victim to the market instead of setting the market.
I love Micah Parsons.
I love him. He is worth every dollar of that $40 million in my mind.
You think Micah Parsons is worth the Myles Garrett deal?
I think he's worth close to. I think he's worth under, but I think he's like 37.
Yeah, okay. But
like, that feels fair.
He should not reset the market.
He shouldn't reset the market, but he's going to now. He is going to, because he's signing second, and he has
probably.
Dallas.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, right, and that's the issue there. But weird thing to me, other than Solomon, because I was like, Solomon Thomas getting $8 million for this season. I was like, that seems high for Dallas.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And so I dug through back all the way to 2020 of every free agent contract signing they've done over the last 5 years. Do you know the highest paid free agent they've picked up in 5 years now? And I just couldn't deal with looking through more because a lot of them were just bad.
Hendon Hooker?
No.
Or Malik Hooker?
No.
Who?
Brandon Cooks got $10 million.
Oh, yeah. Brandon Cooks off the Texans. Damn.
Solomon Thomas and Brandon Cooks are the 2 highest paid free agents they've gotten in the last 5 years.
Shout out to them.
They do not go and make these deals. Over half of their deals that they've gotten are all $1 to $2 million with incentives that can lead a guy up to 4. That's all. They do not sign free agents.
They're like playing Moneyball at the worst, but like the worst version of it.
Exactly. Like they bring in old guys for short-term contracts so they could shed them the next season. And then if you create a homegrown star and it happened to hit on something, you have to overpay a bloated contract because you don't pay them when it's due. You pay them after the market resets. Like this team is in a bad financial situation at this point because Jerry refuses to step down from GM.
Do you have any other teams?
My last one's the Falcons.
Okay.
They've done nothing. And I think that is an issue. If you're planning on moving on to Michael Penix, you still have Kirk on the roster on the payroll.
They're paying Kirk and he takes so much money and they couldn't really, they lost Jarrett.
You can go and trade Kirk right now.
But they still have to eat that contract.
They have to eat part of it. It depends on the deal of how they're able to ship him off.
It's just, it's scary. Like, how much money that they're probably going to get rid of him before the draft, I think. But
all they've switched out is they lose Grady Jarrett, who was one of their bright spots of their defense.
Heart and soul of that defensive line.
You lose Drew Dolman.
Very good offensive lineman who ended up going to get paid right now.
You add Divine Diablo.
Bears. Yeah.
Divine
Diablo, who was from the Raiders, very good inside linebacker.
Good inside linebacker, a little older.
Yeah, he's been playing in the league for a while.
Yeah. And then you add Leonard Floyd.
Another guy, edge rusher, who's been playing in the league for a very, very long time. I think maybe been in Atlanta like twice.
Yeah, at this point. That's the only moves. Penix is not in a better situation whatsoever. You have not added or changed anything from last season other than keeping a bloated contract and trying to start your rookie over him.
Maybe they feel like they have the roster already, or maybe they feel like they have a lot of picks. I think they have 9 picks in the draft.
That's gonna be what they swing on.
Yeah.
But
I can't wait to evaluate these teams like after the draft, so we can be like, hey, this is where we're at now.
But you have so much cap space and you have so many picks.
Yeah.
You can go get a couple veterans.
I felt that way about the Chargers, where I was like, the Chargers have $90 million to spend, and all they spent it on was Asante Samuel, which is a good re-sign, and like
Najee
Harris. Who, you know my feelings about Najee. I like Najee.
The difference is you had a top 5 defense in the Chargers.
Yeah.
You had one of the best ground games in the league.
Yeah.
With
one of the best.
One of the best with Gus Edwards and J.K. coming off an injury.
Yeah.
You had Quentin Johnston somehow being the number 1 receiver.
He was
bad.
It was Lad McConkey.
It was McConkey's the true number 1, but out of the slot, it's hard to say he's number 1.
Yeah.
Like on depth chart wise, you know what you're going to go get.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know what positions need to be filled because you've done well in every other position.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what Atlanta did the best on last season other than Bijan?
They're the best at those overhead camera angles. The little highlight
There's
ones.
too many gaps to fill for one draft.
No, yeah.
Like if you think the window's there, if you're trying to build this team, you have 9 picks. Go get some veterans, and you could bring in your rookies to fill in the slots. You're like just swinging on 9 rookies to hope to hit.
Yeah, you're
is
like,
a ridiculous
I need all 9
stance.
of these rookies to hit right now.
Like that is a crazy thing to do when you've done no other moves.
Let's get into question of the day, and then we'll end with pick of the week. My question of the day is a popular one that's going around right now. Yes, it is another March Madness question. This one I specialized for you.
Okay.
If we were to take the worst team in college basketball right now and gave them one NBA star or player, do you think that they could take that roster and win a March Madness tournament? Now,
yes.
Now the answer is yes.
Yeah, completely. Even if it's a G League NBA player, yes, I would argue that they would get shot.
But the game was about to be what level of star? You think like Max McClung could help like Dayton win a March Madness
I think they'd have
bracket?
A shot because
not a shot, a bona fide dub.
Bona fide dub. I think you would get a 8th man off the 8th to 10th man off an actual NBA roster. Maybe not G League.
Zach Edey is getting like real minutes in Memphis, where he's not the starter, but he's coming off the bench and he's playing really well. And he essentially, with the help of a little bit of guard help, took Purdue to a national championship.
Exactly.
Where they did lose.
Yeah. But he was able to drag them there. I think 1 year in the NBA.
You think CJ McCollum could get?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because like you've seen like I forget the documentary, but there was a documentary where they took a former 11th man off an NBA roster, and had him just go play one-on-one pickup and like just across the country in universities, and he cooked everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
like
NBA
it was
are dogs.
It wasn't just yes they are, but it's the idea of grown man strength versus sitting with kids.
I told you about Hunter Dickinson. He's 25 years old. There's old college basketball players.
Yeah, but there's a difference when you have, like, I would even say...
there's a lot of the NBA's 18, 19, or 19,
You have a lot of younger
21.
guys, but...
Shay's 25 years old. He's literally younger than Hunter Dickinson.
Which is wild that
He's about
Dickinson's
to win
still
MVP.
But I would argue, like, I think the age and experience and quality, like, even if you're not a starter, if you just get garbage time minutes, you are playing against the best players in the world week in and week out at practices and getting that experience. And you're a little bit older and more confident in yourself. I think that speaks dramatically to versus playing against 18, 19-year-olds. Even if Hunter Dickinson's the outlier, majority of the college basketball world is under 20.
Do you think Rui Hachimura could take a team to the championship?
I think he could.
Here's my final one. Do you think Chris Paul, at his age right now,
his IQ, if he just walked onto a team today, I think it would be tough. You give him a week to practice with the team.
You put Chris Paul in a Cal State Fullerton team in the 16th seed of a March Madness bracket, and you think Chris Paul at the age of 40 years old,
he can make a Final Four. Like I think he can make a Final. You give him a week to practice.
I don't disagree.
Like, that's my biggest thing is like if you're taking these guys, give them a little bit of time to get comfortable with the team.
Yeah.
Chris Paul has such a high basketball IQ. He's one of the greatest passers.
Make you better.
He's going to tell you where you need to be. He's going to teach you what you need to do, dumb it down, and he's going to deliberately pick apart a team, and all you got to do is just stand there and make your shot.
I think if you play in the NBA longer than if you get past the age of 40, you should be allowed to go back to college and play. I think if you make it past 40,
the Dwight Howard rule in China?
Correct. You're allowed to be like, all right, well, clearly I can't do it in the NBA, but you're telling me you wouldn't watch him suit up at Marquette? I would. I'd watch every game. If LeBron, after like 3 more years in the NBA, was like, all right, and I technically never went to college, I'm going to go use my eligibility to go play for the Buckeyes, or he was like, I'm going to go be an Akron Zip, and
it'll bring in fans. That'll be interesting to see.
Everyone would watch it.
I forgot
it should be legalized.
I was like, I forgot that he skipped college.
Yeah, let LeBron play. We should get that trending.
Oh well, what's his name? Former Timberwolf. Kevin Garnett missed college too. Imagine Kevin Garnett going back to play right now.
Right now, Kevin Garnett's been retired for a long time.
I want to see it.
I
want to see it so bad. Have him trash talking a child.
What's that Ice Cube League? The Big Three?
Yeah,
we can get those guys in there.
Oh, those guys would run them.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think you could play 3-on-5 and they'd still run them.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's go into pick of the week, Don. I'll go with my pick first because we actually already said it.
Sure.
I am taking VCU money line. It's my favorite bet of the tournament. I love VCU. I think what they're going to do is going to be great against BYU. The Mormons who complained about because they're not allowed to play on Sundays, they forced their hand in this bracket. You don't get a home field advantage. It's right there in Denver. You're in Utah. I want BYU to lose. I'm not a fan.
Sure.
Cut them. VCU.
My big one, I'm taking the Valspar Championship for the PGA Golf. Like I'm liking these picks a lot lately.
You love the PGA right now.
I'm enjoying it, and I like Valspar a lot. I stayed away from the Players Championship at the Valspar because Players was last week. Very thin field this week for not a lot of big name stars playing.
But that's where you've been getting your action.
That's where you find these kind of value guys in these smaller tournaments. I have 5 players I'm taking to win and top 10. They are plus money in both categories across the board. Sepp Straka, Corey Connors, Alex Smalley, Rasmus Nogard Peterson, and Sam Ryder.
That's Donovan. You ask him for one pick, he gives you 7.
And it's just actually 10 technically. If you're taking the top 10 and if you take them plus money. Basically the lowest odds, Sam Strika plus 2,000 to win, plus 197 the top 10 it. Sam Ryder, deep guy. I would put very small units on this. He's plus 12,000 to win.
12,000.
And he's plus 1,400 to top 10. But he has been playing a little bit more consistently. He had some kind of elbow thing for last year. He's stepping up a lot. And when you don't have any big name guys, there's a lot of variables, a lot of variation on where these dudes can finish. Take advantage of the chaos.
Slide him right in our top 10. Why not? It's
why not?
Plus 1,900 bet. I'm going to take it.
Yeah, feels good.
Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Bus Picks, episode 60. We are creeping up on that episode 100. Maybe we'll do something fun that day. My name is Dio. This is Don. And remember, pray for the parlay.